Desert Sanctuary with Karl and Laura Forehand.
Often when we have doubts about religion, or we want to be contemplative, or simply ask questions, it can feel like we are wandering out into the desert.
We would like to welcome you to our sanctuary, the Desert Sanctuary.
We've tried to pick guests that resonate with our fellow friends and seekers here in the desert.
Our hope is that you will find life for your body, soul, and spirit.
And now, here is our show. Hi, welcome to the Desert Sanctuary. I'm Laura Forehand, and I'm here with Karl Forehand. And Winston is asleep by the door, making sure we're all safe. So we're back together, just me and you, doing what we love to do, podcasting. So what's new?
The big thing I think coming up is leaning forward. We will start taping in July some episodes for leaning forward. Instead of doing a conference, kind of reached out, found some people that want to record episodes instead of recording speeches. And so hopefully that'll be good.
Yeah.
And maybe better, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We've recorded one already, I think. Also, our book with the same title should be coming out in September. What we're going to talk about today is part of it is a chapter in that book.
Right.
That book kind of takes out into the desert a little bit further, where we're talking about what we've learned from doing the podcast and some of those things and the way we progressed.
Just through our own healing and stuff,
a little bit further down the road. I like that the healing stuff is in there in a little more detail, and that's been fleshed out in our lives, and so therefore it's in the book.
Yeah.
We're an open book or something like that. So I just woke up from my nap, ready to go.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay. I'm trying to get the house clean because we're having granddaughters this weekend, and I'm excited.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
then
all right.
Next week we're taking off on a trip.
Yeah.
To see some more relatives.
Yep.
And then
got a full summer, and I'm looking forward to it before I have to head back to the classroom.
To school.
Yep. So,
in a new position, new job.
New position. Yep. New district, new grade level, all the things, and it's going to be good, but I'm trying to remember to enjoy the summer and not stress about
take some time
all
off.
the new stuff coming up.
That's really hard for teachers, right?
Well, yeah, it's hard for me anyway. I don't know if I can speak for every teacher, but it is hard for me. I mean, I have a good teacher friend, and this is actually going to be her very first year teaching, and so she's having a hard time. She feels like she needs to be doing something every day to get ready for. And I get that, but I did advise her, don't forget to take some time for yourself, because what happens is, I mean, I know there's some people that think like, oh, teaching must be easy because you get all summer off, but the amount of prep time and emotional, mental, that goes into being a teacher, you need that summer off. You need to take a break, but a lot of times we don't take a break. We're like already thinking about how we want to do things next year, looking up things, getting ideas for our classroom or resources for our classroom or books for our classroom, and then before you know it, school starts, but you kind of start burning out about January. So it's really important to, and I think that's true with any occupation, you've got to make sure that you take
some time
for yourself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So anyway,
I've noticed that you go through cycles every year where it's kind of like I'm excited. Oh no,
right.
You never don't ever not like your kids, but wears on you. Then it's kind of like, is this? Am I sure this is what I'm supposed to be doing?
Yeah. Usually that's at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
When you're trying to like establish all the expectations and classroom routines and stuff like that. And it takes time,
Then it slowly starts getting better.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like a pregnancy, a birth. You're ready to get it over with, and then you start recovering in the summer. But teachers still work quite a bit, even in the summer, and lots of hours during the school year. So,
right.
You have my respect.
Well, and I think anybody who, has a good work ethic and wants to do their best at their job can relate, whether it's education or anything else. You want to do what's best for, in my case, kids and the school district and my colleagues, but the same can be said for anybody if they have a position, or even you are able to be a full-time writer now, and so, but you have to make sure, you were just talking about this yesterday, how you need to make sure that you're not just spending all your time back here in the office. You gotta take a break, even when you're on a roll.
Yeah.
So
take a nap or call it good for the day.
Yeah. Which I give you a lot of
clean up the rug from where Winston had a
don't know what his problem is,
quote unquote accident or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his deal is. He is getting older. Try to have a little bit of compassion for him, but anyway, we're here to talk about something specific. So go. How do you want to introduce this topic?
Well, I think it is a chapter in the new book, but what I said early on is we can't avoid the hard things, whether the hard work, whether it's being a school teacher or dealing with our trauma or getting healthy or just actual work. You can't avoid the hard stuff. I think in general, not always, but in general, if you avoid the hard, avoid the leaning in, then it never gets done, right?
Well, for me, I just stay busy, and then I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. That kind of leads to what we discovered as we've been going through our deconstruction and thinking about religion and all the things that happened while we were there. We discovered spiritual bypassing, that it's real easy if you stay busy, if you don't think about it, to bypass the things that really need our attention, things that are important. And for some reason, I just thought of the light bulb in the bathroom that I've seen that it was out 50 times.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been about a month.
Might have been 50 weeks. Who knows?
No.
It's been a long time. But we can do that with our trauma, with things that are below the surface. We just keep stuffing them back down, using platitudes in religion to get past them. And the longer we do that, the worse it gets.
And I just want to say, because in my case, I no longer use spiritual language or religion to bypass stuff. But you can still bypass without, like we were just saying, without using spiritual jargon or anything like that. You can still keep yourself busy, or whatever it is to kind of distract you from having to do the hard work, like you said.
So we have an obsession inside of religion, mainly with light, happiness, joy, all of that stuff, looking good, feeling like we're happy, those things, and it kind of leads us to avoid that hard, dirty work of getting better. So
why do you think it is that we have that obsession with light, especially inside religion or inside churches?
Yeah, I think it's just a part of the language, and it's if we as a group can tell ourselves that we're all okay and we're we have the best doctrine. We know we're in the know. We look good, and anything that feels dark or feels unusual that we're not familiar with, we stay away from because we're afraid we're going to look bad, right? But what we found is that quote unquote darkness in us needs to be faced, and what seems like darkness in this case, what we're going to talk about today, may even be that inner child trying to heal us. It may be the actual thing that's going to make us better. We can't just ignore it, hope God will do something, pray for a miracle, and bypass it. It needs to be faced, and it feels dark, it feels hard, it feels unnecessary. But if we don't face it, you have to feel it to heal it, and you have to face that darkness so that it can be integrated, right? Instead of battling, it's almost like we're dueling swords with our inner child. It's just not going to work. It's going to make it draw back and not help us out, in my opinion.
Yeah, and before we really dive in, I've shared this with you before. The whole kind of doesn't always sit well with me. I think because I think of the word heal there's something wrong that needs to be fixed. So I don't know. I guess I just wanted to put that out there. The word heal still, it's not nails across a chalkboard like it used to be for me. Because I think that so much of, like you said, the language of the church is, there's something wrong with you. You need delivered. You need
exercise it.
Yeah, you need you need God to heal you, and so we walk around so many times thinking that there's just something, there's something wrong, and it needs to be fixed. And so just hopefully,
say, take it from me, take this from me, take it away from me. Yeah,
but hopefully, like I said, it doesn't have as gross of a taste as it used to. And hopefully, I'll begin to understand more what the word heals or healing means to me, as I continue to, I guess, deconstruct that. But anyway, I don't know. I just felt the need to say that. I still kind of struggle with that word heal, just because I think it refers back to there's something wrong. There's something that needs to be exorcised out of me. So anyway, maybe through this discussion, it'll help me understand it even a little better.
In fact, it needs to be integrated.
Yeah.
It needs to be, addressed. It needs to be felt so that it can shift or, and I probably still use heal a lot, but the process we're talking about is what we've learned as focusing. And it doesn't mean just staring intently at something, but it kind of is in a way. But focusing was developed by Eugene Gendlin, and it's from Carl Jung's ideas and teaching and so on. And people have developed it over time and refined it, and our friend Dr. Paul Fitzgerald has, kind of created a method that kind of goes that builds off of Eugene Gendlin's methods and concepts and so on. So we have, in our new book, we're going to have the 5 kind of things and so that's what I talked about in the book. I talked about, an actual method, and for sure I want to stress, the specific method is not golden. That may or may not work for you, and you may have to refine, and you may meet with the spiritual director or a counselor that might have a different. We've since encountered several things that are similar to this, and anywhere you're doing inner child work, it's going to be pretty similar to this. So there's lots of different ways to skin a cat, as they say in Oklahoma. The first part of it, though, is preparation. So there's always breathing work. Most healing modalities I've come across nowadays there's some breathing work involved.
Right.
I think breathing and breath is, always been attuned to the spirit. It's breath, it's pneuma. And when we breathe right, when we start breathing deeply, we're aware of our breathing, then I think is when we go inside. It's when we're able to access the inner child, the inside part of us, the deeper part of us, and that I think that preparation is important, and that we just notice our breathing and then notice what we're feeling. Most people do some sort of get rid of extraneous thoughts, just observe them, don't judge them. Some people think of them like monkeys, that they want to take over to an island and just leave them there to play for a while they're doing something else. But however you think of that, it's preparation, just getting still, becoming focused so you can go inside. And a lot of people do focusing sessions, the first time or two is just getting used to that, because we've been taught, don't go inside, don't trust yourself, and all that. And it takes a while just to get comfortable with, it's not so much what I am going to do, but I just need to be with that inside part of me.
Well, I think it's important too to like you said, there's a lot of different, ways. Maybe not a lot of different ways, but we've seen different styles of focusing. And I think that's the important thing, is to figure out what works for you. For example, my biggest thing was just sitting still and not having that, monkey mind. That's really hard for me. And so at the beginning I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to sit here for 15-20 minutes and just basically not do anything and not think about anything, and that was really, really hard for me. So I would, even just being still, even if today you can only do it for 3 minutes, I just think that's important to let people know that, because in religion we're so used to checklists, and this is how you do it, and if you do it this way, then all will be right in your world. And then when it's not, then it's your fault. And so, I found myself doing that same thing, where it's I can't sit for, 10 minutes and then feeling like I'm a failure. Well, the reason I'm not healing or getting anything out of this is because it's all because of me,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think that's important to just say, if you're the type of person where sitting still and breathing comes easy and you can do it for 10-15 minutes, I think that's wonderful. But if you can only do it for 2 or 3 minutes, that's wonderful too.
Yeah. If you do it with a companion, sometimes they'll lead you through that. But sometimes even if we just use some sage and smudge, blow into that, things like that, a lot of times that relaxes us enough where we can focus and go inside. So there's the preparation stage. The second part, I know you like this part, but it's a part of me feels. So putting in the language. So I've said, all of this stuff doesn't serve me. It's not, I don't want to think about the grocery list right now. I don't want to think about paying my taxes and things like that. There's a part of me that feels something, and it's not it's not going away. It's like it almost needs my attention right now. And so when we think about that, Dr. Paul introduced us to the language that a part of me feels, or something inside me feels, or because it's not it's not all of us.
Right.
It's not I'm sad. It's a part of me feels sad. And so that's really helpful, because it's a smaller thing we can concentrate on, and we can give our attention to and be present with. And oddly enough, that's this third thing, I think, is being present with that feeling or emotion. So a part of me needs a handle. A part of me feels angry. A part of me feels sad. And then being with that. We kind of learned this from the sisters that I've talked about before, and they would, you would say, a part of me feels sad, and they would say, where do you feel that? Or, that's about all they would say. But more than anything, they just wanted me to be present with that and stay with it.
Well, and I think too, like when you have a companion like the sisters, or like I've seen you do focusing sessions with people, or like Dr. Paul when he does focusing sessions, I think having that companion that is non-judgmental helps you not be judgmental towards feelings of anger, sadness, discouragement, things like that. So I think that's really important, not only to be with that feeling, that part of you that feels that, but also to, not have judgment for it either.
Right.
Because that, I think, for me in the past has caused me to just spiral down really fast.
Yeah. So, there's the inner critic also that you might want to deal with. Now, a lot of people nowadays call it the protector.
Yeah.
It's a voice inside us trying to protect us, but it gets critical real fast, and you kind of like have to almost mentally hold your hand up and say, not right now. This is not what we're doing right now. And just so you can be present, non-judgmental with that part of you. So then the fourth thing is that we invite interaction with that part of us. And it's kind of like if, one of your children at school was upset, was sad, part of your classroom was angry or sad, you would want to be with them, first of all, present and listening to them. But then you also might interact with them. You might put your arm around them. You might ask them a question. You might comfort them, things like that.
Yeah.
And so if this is our inner child, if this is the 5-year-old version of myself that's sad, I might say, I've got your back. I'm here for you. And just be with them. So it's interaction with them. And I think for me, that's where the shift usually happens. That, if I realized in second grade I had way too much responsibility on me, and that produced some trauma. I can be with 2-year-old or 7-year-old Joey, and what would I do? I'd put my arm around him. I'd say, it's okay, you shouldn't
I think also,
have had that.
And giving yourself permission to, feel that. Telling 7-year-old Joey, that was a lot of responsibility for you. I can see why you felt so overwhelmed, or sometimes you still feel overwhelmed, So, almost validating. So first, giving yourself permission to hold space for that emotion, whatever it is, in a non-judgmental way, but then validating that. And I think too, I'm going to go back to, a part of me feels. So for me, like I said, I can spiral really easily. And so if I have a part of me that is feeling that way, it feels a little more it feels easier, I guess, to hold space in a non-judgmental way and then validate that without feeling, without reverting to attaching negative feelings towards that.
Like I should or I shouldn't.
Yeah.
And then Dr. Paul sometimes says, this is kind of step 5, he'll say, well, it's no wonder you're feeling anxious right now. You shouldn't have had that responsibility at 7 years old.
Right.
With taking care of your siblings and all of that stuff that went along with that. It's no wonder.
Yeah. And I want to interject because I remember the first time I focused with Dr. Paul and he said that to me. I still can feel in my body, even when you're talking about it right now, the relief and the release that I had when he said, it's no wonder.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. Like, just this, like, it's cliche, but this weight was lifted off of me. It just felt like I could breathe.
Yeah.
Like somebody validated, in a very non-judgmental way.
And that's a little bit of understanding, but understand the goal of focusing and so on is not to understand the problem necessarily. But, I mean, when we just experience being with that part of us, and the judgment comes off, and then you're, like you said, you're validated, then it's able to shift. It's not, now I understand analysis or anything like that. I don't understand deep psychological principles. I don't even know for sure exactly why I'm better now, intellectually, mentally, but I feel it. I feel different.
Do you think it has to do with
shifted.
that in integration part
Yeah,
of it?
I think that's the word we're learning. You and I are learning now as we're progressing along in this and talking to more trauma coaches and more people. You're reading books and taking classes and things like that. But that word keeps coming back up. We don't want to cut out or exercise the demons or whatever. It's not getting rid of anything. That could, after all, that's a part of you that feels that way.
And it's valid.
Yeah, and so we want to integrate that into us. So that happened when I was a child. It never got resolved. It's still trying to resolve itself. And knowledge is not going to resolve it. Just me knowing. But when I feel it, then I can heal it. And so then it begins to transform inside of us and integrate into our adult lives so that I can I'm still going to be triggered. The key is I'm still going to be triggered by things, but now I might be able to respond instead of react. You and I literally don't get in near as many.
I'm going to knock on wood.
Near as many fights over nothing because, something we do triggers the other one, and then it's, you're worse than me, blah, blah, blah. All that spiral stuff that just happens. So that happens a lot less because we've worked on some of those things that are inside us.
I'm going to,
Can throw a wrench in it?
No, not necessarily.
I'm
but
just kidding.
I'm, when you were talking about integration, it made me think of how in religion we use prayer or giving it to God or whatever. So talk about that versus integration. So I would say prayer doesn't work. I've not seen that. I mean, the Christian way of praying. Okay, I understand. I mean, I've seen other. I don't know. It's not religion, but other practices where they use the word prayer, but that word feels different in these other practices. But let's just focus on the Christian way of praying. So speak to that and how how that maybe doesn't help us integrate, like you're talking about. I mean,
yes.
So maybe I am throwing a wrench in things because
Yeah.
I'm asking you that like off the cuff here.
So prayer is asking something out there to change the reality, and you can't change the reality of what happened to you as a child. You know, you can't get rid of it.
Right.
It's the body keeps the score. It's it's stored there. And so it's.
By the way, it is stored on a cellular level.
Yeah, I agree.
Just so people understand when you say, I mean, your nervous system has stored it.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's pretty universal understanding now.
And I'm sorry, I keep interrupting, but that's also why you can't, like, I think about this, how many times did I say to myself, why can't I just get over this? You can't, because your nervous system has, like, it's embedded basically in you.
Still,
so you,
still trying to resolve it.
Yeah.
And saying, you know, do something miraculous by taking this away doesn't resolve it.
Right.
And, you know, for prayer, I would prefer to use the word communion now. If, you know, however I think of God, source, creator, that I want to commune with whatever that is. You know, I want to commune with nature. And when you commune with, you know, when you sit outside and you see rabbits and deer and squirrels and all of those things are authentic, they're present. You don't pray to change them, but you sit with them.
Yeah.
And that's and so many times that's what I'm using the healing word, but that's what's healing, it's what's encouraging, it's what's nurturing to us. And so that communion, but we use prayer to bypass, you know. We say, I'll pray for you. That means I don't want to think about this difficult thing you just said to me. I want to tell you I'm going to pray, so that sounds noble, you know. And I want to pray also that God will just wipe this out or take it away, because I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
It's focusing is hard.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
Well, facing your trauma is hard work.
Yeah, it is, and there's no getting around it.
There is no getting around it.
If, you know, we want to be healthier, and we've both gotten a couple of good health reports lately. Your vision was good and things like that. But, you know, those kind of things take they're hard work. Your job is hard. There's a lot of things about life that are hard, and usually they don't get better unless you do the work. That's kind of the focus of this
Particular chapter, yeah.
Yeah. So in the book, in this chapter of the book, you mentioned a lot of times I write and I take away all the stuff and you don't have anything left to say. But in this one, you were mentioning some things that you learned, some lessons from this doing the hard work.
Right.
Can you share some of those with us?
Well, I shared the first one already, where I just kind of learned to be still. You know, I just want to reiterate that being still for me one day may be 1 minute, and maybe the next day, like we are doing inner medicine work, you know, with Carrie Hummingbird, and I'm able to sit, you know, of course she's guiding this meditation. So I feel like for me, when I'm being guided or have a companion with me, I definitely can be still for longer periods of time. So, but just learning to do that. I mean, I definitely, and that's something too, like when you're being still, you know, maybe it's not complete silence. Maybe it is. Maybe you need maybe you need to turn on a guided meditation. Maybe you don't. Like, neither way is right. Neither way is wrong. Like, what speaks to you?
You yourself need to be still. It's advantageous.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
You can be.
Yes. Like, I'm not going to turn on a guided meditation and then dust the house. Like, no, I need to take time to sit, because when I'm still, then I can do what you were talking about earlier, like focus on my breathing, which was something that, you know, which was the second thing that I learned to do was to breathe. And I start that part of the chapter out with, it sounds kind of silly because it's like the autonomic nervous system, but, a lot of times we just go through the motion and we don't focus on the breath.
Since you mentioned the breath again, it was funny. We watched the Women's College World Series softball.
Oh, yeah.
And so many of them, and even the commentators talked about it, they have breathing training now.
Yeah.
And you could literally see
you could watch them
when they would when they go to pitch or when they went up to bat. They were using those breathing techniques to get their body to respond correctly and to be in that state.
To be maybe relaxed in the moment, or at least just be present in the moment.
I would have never imagined 10 years ago that breathing was that important. And now it's just almost essential. That I learned to take some time and breathe deeply. And it's amazing when you get your sleep patterns kind of in line, and you go on bed at the same time and turn the lights down 30 minutes early and some stuff like that. It gets you ready to go to sleep. It's amazing. I fall asleep sometimes so fast that you get mad at me.
It's true. It's true.
And literally the mechanism to get from activity to sleep is really just deep breathing for a minute. It's so important, so powerful that I think you can't mention it enough.
Yeah, and I think going back to this sleeping aspect, when you're focused on your breathing, then your mind can't really focus on. For me, it's like worst case scenario thoughts creep in as soon as we turn out the lights and go to bed. It's and that's probably something I need to work on or whatever, but there's a reason that's happening. I need to figure that
out.
But
what else you got?
So learning to listen. So listen to my body, listen to and when I say listen, that could also be feel. So where do I feel things? I'm trying to be more in tune with that. Something that Carrie says a lot is where do you feel it in your body? Does it have a color? So is there a color associated with, how you're feeling? Is there a texture? And those are all kind of new things for me that I'm kind of playing with, and I hadn't really thought about it. But again, it's just being in tune to those parts of you that for me I have ignored for a really long time. And so I feel like for me I need to sit there and say, okay, where am I feeling it? And is there anything else, any other senses associated with it? And really pay attention to it, give it the recognition and the time and dedication that it deserves, because there's so many things that I just bypassed for so long. So
a lot of things you want to ignore.
Right.
There's a pain in my hip. I want to ignore that. I think it's important to be with it, to pay attention to it. What is it? What is it really? And when we don't ignore it, we found out in the first part of the book, we're talking about podcasting and listening to people, listening to their stories. And I'm a little ADD or something. I get easily distracted. But when we really listen to people, it's almost like we can feel what they feel. And so same thing internally, but also listening to someone else that's focusing. The better you listen, the more connected you are, and the better chance you have good outcomes.
Well, I think that's what focusing is a lot about, connecting with people. You said feeling the things that they're feeling, and having compassion for even the parts of them that are hurting. Yeah. So, like in being still and listening to, those parts of me that come up, and then being able to like thank those parts of me. I think that was like one of the hardest things, or maybe one of the hardest things for me, maybe not so much thanking it, or maybe they go hand in hand, but having compassion.
So even though if one of your children in your classroom said, I'm feeling sad, and you comfort them, you might be very apt to say, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for trusting me with that.
Yeah.
Thank you for being honest with me. We have a hard time doing that with our internal self or inner child. Yeah. Right?
Again, it goes back to that I should be over it. I should. But the truth of the matter is I didn't do any of the work. So why do I think I should be over it?
Yeah. And the part of you that feels that way didn't have the skills at the time to resolve it, and so inner critic says, oh, don't be a whiner, don't cry. But the adult you now that has better information says, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for letting me know, and I'm with you now. Right. I got you.
Well, and I think you can also, like you said, talk to the inner critic part of you and just say, thank you for protecting me, but I've got this. Thank you for your input, but I've neglected this inner child part of me for long enough, so I'm going to tend to them right now. Thank you for all the years that you tried to protect me, but I got this now.
Yeah.
And that's some of the language that I've started using. And it's not that, I'm trying to shut up the inner critic or the protector, but when you're able to do that, you're able to find your voice. You're able to let, that wounded inner child maybe speak for the first time. And that's really, really important. I mean, if we're talking about, doing the healing, doing the hard work, I think you've got to let that part of you that has remained silent for so long speak. And you are like, one of the things in trauma that we talk about is like sometimes teachers are the trusted adults in some of these kids' lives because maybe their home life is very traumatic or whatever, and so they don't have a trusted adult. And so that's how I think of myself now, is that I'm the trusted adult in this situation, and I'm not going to tell that wounded part of me, shut up, stop whining. That part of me has a right to be heard. Because again, if you don't acknowledge it, then you can't begin to heal it. So yeah. And then I think another part that I learned that you've already kind of touched on is that I learned to see the part and not the whole. So that was huge for me, because once I felt a certain way and felt like it was all of me, I was very hard on myself, very, very hard on myself. And so I feel like if I can say a part of me is feeling betrayed, or a part of me is feeling angry, or a part of me is feeling hurt by this person, I can definitely acknowledge that and be with that and not judge it. It just seems like when it's like before learning how to do all the focusing and everything, before some of this vocabulary came, it was like all of me is feeling betrayed. And then it was like, well, maybe there's a reason, because maybe you're worthless, because maybe, you know, obviously you're the common denominator, and it's all you, you know, and that, like I said, the spiral would just happen so fast. And then that's a really dark hole to try to climb out of. So, yeah. And then, you know, finally I just say that it was really all worth it. And you can attest to, you know, when all the talk about focusing first came up, you know, a couple years ago, when you started focusing with Dr. Paul, and, well, you had your own, like, Dark Night of the Soul, and you read some books and kind of did your own focusing in the Hermitage or whatever. You know, I didn't really want to hear it. I really didn't want to hear it. But I've become way more open to it, and I'm realizing that, you know, I'm worth it, really. I mean, I know I wrote in there that, I think I said I learned I am worth it. So, yeah, that I'm worth taking the time to, you know, to be still, to breathe, to, you know.
And not just that you're worth it, but that you're the priority.
Yeah.
And so we were taught Jesus first, others second, yourself last. Always put yourself last. Okay, but that doesn't heal you.
Right.
You know, you need somewhere in your writing you mentioned the oxygen mask.
Yeah, that's where I said it. Like, you know, we hear that when we get on airplanes, that if you lose cabin pressure, that you need to put, and the oxygen masks are released, you need to put yours on first before helping, especially like a child or maybe an older person or something, before you help the person next to you. Because if I help you first, then I have no oxygen and I pass out. And then what good am I? Yeah. What good am I to myself? What good am I to anyone else? And so it is not selfish to put your oxygen mask on first. It is a matter of survival.
Yeah. And other places, you know, Breakthrough talk about medicine, you know, not having any medicine for anybody else, you know, but you got to save at least one for yourself.
Yep.
Or, you know, there's got to be some time, and it's good to be interested in other people, and part of why we do the podcast is to help other people and to hear their stories and so on, but we've got to take some time for our own betterment, for you know, to get us more whole. Laura and I don't want to be doing focusing sessions 24 hours a day. That's not our goal, but we do at times do focusing sessions with people, and usually for free. And if they want to do more, then sometimes we say, you give us a donation or do what you can or whatever. But also then we have a lot of people that we know that we can plug you into. If you want to do some inner child work and some focusing, there's several different ways to go about that, and there's trauma coaches and things like that we can plug you into. And so you may already have those in your life, but definitely let us know if we can help you with that, if we can route you to the right person, or if you just want to talk, you know. We have some time for that.
Definitely.
And definitely makes us happy. I'm not sure if you could do focusing sessions all day long, because what I've noticed is that one or two of them kind of wears me out.
It can be draining. I mean, because you are, you know, like we said, you are feeling, you know, because you're sitting with someone in their trauma, and sometimes that can trigger your own, you know, but the ones that we have done have definitely been worth it, and you know, we have felt like it's been a sacred opportunity, and you know, we don't take that kind of stuff lightly. We feel honored to be part of someone else's journey, so as we've had people be parts of our journey and healing.
And really, podcasts where we listen to people's stories is a form of this, and so we also count that as a privilege. So,
right.
Anything else we need to tell people?
I don't think so. I'm excited for the Leaning Forward series of podcasts and for the book. Just all the things going on.
All the things we're
It's
getting
all
ready
good.
to do.
Yeah.
We want everybody to know that the podcasts have been getting more attention lately, more downloads, whatever that means, and so we're appreciative of that. We're glad that you're tuning in. We want to invite you to be where you are, be who you are, and be at peace. We love you.
Thank you for joining us today on the Desert Sanctuary.
Remember, all that wander in the desert are not lost. We hope that you know
You are seen
you are heard
and you are loved.